Let's get started. Number 5. The water-fueled car. Imagine pulling into a gas station, looking at the price of fuel, and thinking, what if my car just drank water instead? Sounds wonderful. Also sounds like the opening scene of a documentary where everyone eventually gets arrested. One of the most famous stories involves Stanley Meyer, an American inventor who claimed he had developed a vehicle that could run on water using a process he called a water fuel cell. According to Meyer, electricity could separate water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the resulting hydrogen could be used as fuel. Naturally, the internet eventually transformed this into the ultimate forbidden invention story. A genius discovers how to make gasoline obsolete, powerful industries panic, and suddenly the inventor is mysteriously silenced. There's just one annoying problem. Meyer's claims were never independently demonstrated in a way that established his system could produce more usable energy than the process required. In 1996, a court case involving investors found him liable for fraud, and experts testified that his device did not work as advertised. Meyer later died suddenly after becoming ill at a restaurant. That fact has fueled conspiracy theories for decades, but there's no solid evidence that he was murdered because of his invention. And this is where the story gets interesting. Sometimes the strangest part isn't the conspiracy, it's how badly we want the conspiracy to be true. Because someone invented unlimited fuel and was eliminated makes a much better story than someone made extraordinary scientific claims that failed to survive testing. Basically, your brain sees a mysterious death and immediately starts writing the Netflix adaptation. Number 4. The 200 MPG Carburetor. Somewhere out there, someone's uncle swears he knew a guy who built a carburetor that got 200 miles per gallon, and oil companies bought the patent just to bury it forever. This myth has been circulating since the 1970s gas crisis, and it refuses to die, kind of like that one relative at Thanksgiving. The actual science is embarrassingly simple. Internal combustion engines have thermodynamic limits. You cannot squeeze infinite efficiency out of burning gasoline, the same way you can't squeeze infinite juice out of an orange no matter how hard you twist it. Engineers have spent 100 years optimizing this stuff, and the gains have been incremental, not miraculous. So why does the suppression myth persist? Because it hands you a villain. It's way easier to blame a shadowy cabal than to accept that physics itself is the boring, immovable obstacle. Psychologists call this pattern proportionality bias, where big problems, like the world's addiction to fossil fuels, demand equally big explanations, like secret conspiracies, rather than the unsatisfying reality of engines are already pretty efficient and math is math. Basically, your brain would rather imagine big oil goons in sunglasses than accept that the laws of thermodynamics don't care about your feelings. Number 3. The miracle engine. Every few decades, somebody appears with an engine that supposedly produces astonishing amounts of energy while using almost nothing. And every time, the reaction is basically the same. People get excited, investors appear, skeptics start asking uncomfortable questions, demonstrations happen, then somebody says the machine doesn't actually work. One famous category involves so-called perpetual motion machines, devices supposedly capable of operating indefinitely without an external energy source. Humanity has been attempting this for centuries. The problem is that thermodynamics is extremely rude. The first and second laws of thermodynamics place fundamental limits on energy conservation and usable energy. Machines can transfer energy, transform it, and lose some of it as heat. What they cannot do is magically create a limitless supply of useful energy from nowhere. That hasn't stopped inventors from trying. Some have claimed magnetic motors, gravity machines, over-unity generators, mysterious vacuum energy devices, and engines capable of producing more energy than they consume. And occasionally, the inventor insists that scientists, governments, corporations, or competitors are suppressing the breakthrough. Sometimes suppression really can happen in science or industry. Patents can be disputed, inventions can be buried by companies, and powerful institutions absolutely can influence which technologies receive funding. But there's a massive difference between an invention was commercially abandoned and the invention violated the laws of physics and was silenced. The easiest test is brutally simple. Show it working under controlled conditions. Because if your machine can actually produce free energy, you don't need a conspiracy. You need a laboratory, and preferably several extremely annoying physicists standing around with clipboards. Number 2. The death ray. Picture a scientist announcing that he has invented a machine capable of sending invisible energy across huge distances and destroying objects without touching them. Sounds impressive. Also sounds like something you absolutely do not want your neighbor testing in the garage. Nikola Tesla once claimed he was developing a device he called Teleforce, which newspapers later nicknamed a death ray. Tesla described it as a directed energy weapon that could supposedly destroy aircraft at long distances. And naturally, the story became irresistible. Tesla dies. His papers are seized. Governments investigate his work. Decades later, people wonder whether he really had a revolutionary weapon that powerful nations desperately wanted. There is a genuine historical mystery here, but it's considerably less cinematic than the internet version. After Tesla's death in 1943, the US government did examine his possessions because of concerns about potentially sensitive technical information, but investigations into his papers did not establish that he possessed a functioning superweapon capable of doing what conspiracy theories claim. Tesla was an extraordinary inventor, but he also made increasingly ambitious claims late in his life that were never demonstrated at the level required to prove them. And this distinction matters. A secretive government examining an inventor's papers is not automatically evidence that the inventor had technology capable of changing civilization. Sometimes governments investigate things because governments investigate things. Unfortunately, officials reviewed technical documents after an inventor died doesn't sound nearly as exciting as they stole the ultimate weapon and buried it forever. One version needs ominous music, the other needs paperwork. Number 1. The Inventor Who Vanished. Sometimes the strangest technology story isn't about an invention being destroyed, it's about an inventor disappearing from public view. One famous example is Royal Raymond Rife, a 20th century inventor who developed unusual microscopes and claimed that specific frequencies could destroy disease-causing organisms. His work eventually became associated with the controversial idea that diseases could be treated using precisely tuned electrical frequencies. Rife became something of a legend among alternative medicine communities, where later stories claimed powerful medical interests deliberately suppressed his technology. And this is where things get complicated. Rife absolutely existed. He built sophisticated optical instruments, conducted experiments, and developed ideas that attracted attention. But the much larger claim that his technology could reliably cure major diseases and was deliberately destroyed by the medical establishment doesn't have the scientific evidence required to support it. His later life was also far less glamorous than the legend suggests. Financial problems, disputes, and declining professional influence followed him. But once the story became brilliant inventor discovers revolutionary cure and gets silenced, the messy reality became almost irrelevant. Because humans love a villain. If a technology fails, that's boring. If it fails because of technical problems, even worse. But if an evil industry supposedly destroys it because it threatens billions of dollars, now you've got a story. And that's the dangerous part of forbidden technology myths. Sometimes, the most powerful machine isn't the invention. It's the story people build around it. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe.